I never suspected Rebecca of anything more than a fondness for late-night dinners and weekend spa retreats. As a successful lawyer, I prided myself on my ability to read people, yet my own wife, the woman I'd shared my life with for the past 10 years, had eluded me completely. It all started with a phone call. I was in my office wrapping up a case that had taken months of my life when an unknown number flashed on my phone. Michael Sanders, I answered, distracted. Mr. Sanders, this is Detective Harris from the NYPD. We need to speak with you about your wife, Rebecca. My heart plummeted. Is she... all right? She's fine. It's better if we discuss this in person. An hour later, I was sitting in a drab interrogation room. Harris, a grizzled man in his 50s, sat across from me. Mr. Sanders, are you aware of your wife's activities over the past few years? Of course I lied. Rebecca has been living a double life, he said bluntly. She's been working as a high-end escort. The world tilted, and I gripped the edge of the table to steady myself. That's impossible. Harris slid a file across the table. Photos, documents, hotel receipts. It was all there, damning evidence of a life I never knew existed. Why are you telling me this? I demanded. Because she's mixed up in something bigger, and we need your help to protect her. Returning home that evening was surreal. Rebecca was in the kitchen, humming softly as she prepared dinner. I watched her feeling a stranger in my own life. How was your day? She asked, smiling. Interesting, I replied, forcing a smile. We need to talk. Her face paled as she saw the seriousness in my eyes. We sat at the dining table, and I laid out the file Harris had given me. I know, Rebecca, I know everything. Tears welled up in her eyes. Michael, I can explain. Explain? You've been lying to me for years. It started as a way to make extra money, she confessed. But then I got involved in something much darker. I'm working with the FBI to expose a human trafficking ring. My role as an escort gave me access to powerful men involved in this. My mind reeled. Why didn't you tell me? They threatened to kill you. If I did, I couldn't risk it. In the days that followed, I delved deeper into Rebecca's secret world. I met with her FBI handler, Agent Collins, a steely woman with a no-nonsense demeanor. We've been trying to bring down this ring for years, Collins explained. Rebecca's been invaluable in gathering evidence. Why involve me now, I asked. Because things are escalating. The ringleaders are getting suspicious and Rebecca's cover might be blown. We need you to help us take them down. The first step was to gain the trust of one of the lower-level operatives, a man named Vincent. Rebecca arranged a meeting under the guise of discussing a new client. Vincent was a wiry man with shifty eyes. As we sat in a dimly lit bar, he eyed me warily. What's a lawyer doing mixed up in this? I'm looking for new opportunities, I said smoothly. And I have connections that could be useful. Vincent's gaze flickered to Rebecca, who nodded subtly. All right, he said finally, but if you cross us, it won't end well. That night I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Rebecca's soft breathing beside me was a stark reminder of the chasm that had opened between us. Do you still love me? I asked into the darkness. Yes, she whispered. Do you hate me? I don't know, I admitted. I just don't know. The next few weeks were a blur of secret meetings and covert operations. I learned more about the trafficking ring than I ever wanted to know. The depths of human depravity were staggering. One night, Vincent called me in a panic. We've got a problem. One of our girls has escaped. She's threatening to go to the police. Where is she now? I asked. Holed up in a safe house. We need to handle this quietly. This was our chance. Rebecca and I informed Agent Collins, who set up a raid. The night of the operation, tension crackled in the air. We stormed the safe house and chaos erupted. Gunfire, shouts, the acrid smell of smoke. In the midst of it all, I found the girl huddled in a corner, terrified. It's all right, I said, pulling her to her feet. You're safe now. The raid was a success. We rescued several women and gathered crucial evidence. But the victory was bittersweet. Vincent had escaped, and we knew he'd retaliate. That evening, Rebecca and I sat on our balcony watching the city lights. What happens now? I asked. Now we wait, she said, and hope that we've done enough to bring them down. The waiting was the hardest part. Weeks turned into months with no word from the FBI. Vincent was still out there, a shadow hanging over our lives. One night, as I left the office late, a car pulled up beside me. Vincent? He stepped out, a gun in his hand. Get in, he ordered. Heart pounding, I obeyed. He drove in silence, taking me to a deserted warehouse. Inside, he shoved me into a chair and tied me up. You betrayed us, he hissed. Did you really think you could get away with it? I stayed silent, my mind racing. How had he found out? Vincent paced, his eyes wild. You're going to pay for this, he spat. But first, you're going to watch your wife die. Hours passed in agonizing silence. Then the door burst open and Rebecca was shoved inside, bruised and bloodied. My heart ached at the sight. Michael, she whispered, tears streaming down her face. Vincent grabbed her hair, yanking her head back. Any last words, he sneered. Rebecca's eyes met mine, filled with an intensity I'd never seen before. I love you, she said. Enough, Vincent roared, raising his gun. A shot rang out. Vincent's body jerked, then crumpled to the floor. Behind him stood Agent Collins, gun smoking. You're under arrest, she said coldly. In the aftermath, the FBI dismantled the trafficking ring. Dozens of arrests were made, and the survivors were given the help they needed. Rebecca's role in the operation was revealed, and she became a hero in the media. But our marriage was another story. Trust, once shattered, is not easily repaired. We attended counseling, tried to rebuild, but the scars ran deep. One evening, as we sat in our favorite park, I took her hand. Do you regret it? I asked. Sometimes, she admitted, but I had to do it. For those girls. For us. I know, I said, squeezing her hand. I just wish you trusted me. I wish I had too, she said softly. But maybe this is our chance to start over, to build something new. Months later, I found myself standing in a courtroom defending one of the survivors. As I made my closing argument, I glanced at Rebecca in the gallery. She gave me a small, encouraging nod. We weren't the same people we once were. The betrayal and pain had changed us. But in that moment, I realized that maybe, just maybe, we could find our way back to each other. Trust is fragile, but redemption is powerful. And sometimes it takes the darkest of nights to see the brightest of stars.